Hi, and welcome to this 10 minutes on tenant migration webcast focused on email migrations. My name is Malte Schauch, and I'm a principal product manager at Quest Software. In this short webcast, we are talking about the best practices for Exchange Online migrations and how to maintain the email communication between tenants during the migration. And finally, I will share some thoughts about actions you should consider when switching mailboxes to a target tenant. Based on a recent survey from our Tech Talk sessions, around 75% of customers from the session voted that Exchange Online is still the most critical workload in Office 365 for their business. So let's talk about how to ensure that your Exchange migration is successful and that your business stays productive. One challenge is the growing amount of data stored in mailboxes. Most of us had mailbox limitations, especially with Exchange on-prem in the past, and we cleaned our mailboxes from time to time. But this is no longer the case, and we see more and more customers with a lot of data in their primary mailbox and their archive mailboxes. And that shows why careful planning is important, because it's not just about how many mailboxes and how much data do we have. The size of a mailbox is only one factor in the calculation when we talk about how long do we need to complete the Exchange migration. Because that's what everybody is keen to know. How long will it take? But you also need to look at how many items we have per mailbox. Do we have to migrate the recoverable items folder? Or do we need to migrate litigation hold settings? Because all of these small things will impact how long it takes to complete the migration. And the next topic is around migrating me data together. And even if this webcast is focused on email migrations, you can not only just migrate mailboxes to the target if your customer uses other workloads in Office 365 that contain also me data, like OneDrive or Teams. You need to consider moving this information together because it will not only improve the user experience, it will also avoid running into challenges. And the first reason is the deep integration between Exchange and Microsoft Teams, especially regarding the calendar and meeting integration. It will be problematic if you switch the mailbox to the target, but Teams, including calendar and meeting functionality, remains in the source. This would result in a disconnect between both applications, and it will cause a lot of confusion. I also recommend analyzing which users are working together on the same shared and group mailboxes so that you also can move them together. And finally, with all the migration activity in Office 365, Exchange Online is the only workload where you can release throttling for up to 90 days. So always request this before you start the migration to ensure that you can migrate as fast as possible. Now let us talk at how we can ensure that we keep users communicating during the migration period. And the first solution you should look for is a unified gal. That means you can quickly look up other people in one address book and you see their contact information. The next topic should always come together with a unified gal, and that is free busy sharing. It makes the scheduling of meetings so much easier if you see all the users in one address book and you can easily look up their free busy information. And domain sharing comes up in many migration projects because most companies need to share their domain with another tenant so that the people in the other tenant can send and receive emails under the same domain. But also make sure that you have mail forwarding configured correctly, because there will be the situation that some users are working in the source tenant and some other users are already working in the target tenant. And you need to ensure that the email is always delivered to the active mailbox. And finally, domain move. In most migration scenarios, you will also move the domain from the source to the target tenant. And this requires a lot of work because you need to remove the email address from all the objects in the source, detach it, attach it to the target, and assign the email address back to the users. Another challenge with the domain move scenario is the mail delivery, because once you remove the email from all the objects and you remove it from the source tenant, obviously you can no longer receive emails for this domain as long as it is in transit. And this could be multiple hours before you can attach the domain to the target and assign the email address back to the users. We have a dedicated session on domain move, and if you are interested in getting more information, I highly recommend watching the session. And finally, let us talk about what else you need to think of when you're doing mailbox migrations. First, don't forget about the recreation of Outlook profile. It doesn't matter what solution you are using for mailbox migration, because you need to recreate the Outlook profile on every workstation. But also don't forget about the other applications on the workstation. If you switch, for example, OneDrive and Teams together with Outlook, they also require reconfiguration to connect them to the target tenant. And depending on how many users you have, this could be a lot of manual work, and you should consider looking for a tool that can help you to automate this process. And also think about mobile devices. Here it is important to have a good communication plan so that your users know how they can update their mobile application and connect them to the target. Second, you should think about the Teams meeting link. When you switch your users to the target tenant, you need to recreate or update the Teams meeting link. Because if you don't do this, the users will join the meeting as a guest, even if they are the meeting owner. The problem is that the meeting is attached to the account in the source, and without updating the calendar event, the target user can no longer manage their own meeting. As a solution, you can provide, again, a guide to the users so that they know what they have to do. Or you look for a solution in the market that can help you to automate this approach as well. But also think about all the external applications that might have access to the mailboxes to process data. Think about all the transport rules and all the mail-enabled solutions you need to connect to the target tenant. Another big topic is the telephone system, which is in most cases also connected to the Exchange mailbox. So the question here is, can this system handle if some mailboxes are in the source and some are in the target, or what other options do you have? This really requires a deeper look, and it really depends on what system you are using. And finally, if you are still having PST files or email archive solutions, consider moving them into Office 365 so that you no longer have to worry about all the challenges you have with PST files or how to move an email archive solution into a new environment. If you are interested in trying Quest on-demand migration, please sign for the free 30-day trial. And if you found this session helpful, please also watch our other 10 minutes on tenant migration webcasts. And thank you so much for joining me today.